Given the unprecedented scale and scope of the America's Cup, it inevitably served up a number of learning opportunities for the country. What worked, what could we do better, and what can we take forward or leave behind in pursuing national potential?
Well, I think one of the great things about the America's Cup is that we knew the date that the America's Cup began. There was no equivocation. There was no, well, what happens if we don't do it? Unacceptable answer, unacceptable question. We will open that village in May as scheduled.
Certainly in the earlier days, we would have to spend a lot of time in meetings investing in getting people to shift their mindset and say, okay, this is happening. Now, how do we make it happen? That builds momentum, because now once people are mentally and emotionally vested in an outcome, it also builds this incredible positive momentum for, I don't want to let you down, you don't want to let me down, we don't want to let each other down, so what do we need to do to make this work?
And this is now a lesson learned for almost anything that you do. You start with a vision. You start with a collective objective of where you want to get to. Then you get people on board, and you get people to agree to that collective vision, and then you get everybody working towards the same goal. Once you do that, it actually becomes remarkably easy, because people get turned on by it, they get dynamic, they get excited by it, but they know where they're going. And the skeptics, and there are always skeptics, there are always people that are going to say, no, what are you doing, can't do it. Once you agree on a common vision, then there is very little Bermuda can't do.
Of course, understanding the vision and goals of any initiative is vital in getting the community on board. A lesson America's Cup organizers recognize as one of their main challenges.
Buy-in is what you get if you have good communication. So from the time we know we're going to have an event, we really do need to come up with good communication plans to make sure that we have local buy-in, that we have ambassadors out there, that we're answering questions. So I think that's the biggest thing, because a lot of things, once you have good communication, so much spreads off of that.
And the community has to see the inherent benefit as to why we should spend that money to drive those outcomes. And if we can paint that picture, the sooner we can paint that picture, the sooner people could figure out, well, here's how I engage to get the benefit from it.
Yet much of what needed to be done was new to Bermuda, and organizers were quite literally wrestling with the very same questions they were being asked to answer.
Sometimes that's the best thing you can see, is that we don't have all the answers. This is the plan that we're trying to put in pencil to get to that. And the guys were appreciative of it, and they gave an opportunity to give some answers to us. So, they can really see the ideas in the making. So it made a big difference.
It is often noted that we learn more from our mistakes than our successes. And this was also true with the America's Cup, illustrated in one specific, invaluable experience.
The biggest sort of thing to me was when was it all going to come together to know that it all works? And we were fortunate enough that we had some sponsors come forward that wanted to do a test event. And thankfully, that test event was an absolute failure. and people will say, well, why do you say thanks? And I say, well, because it taught us all sort of the valuable lessons that we needed to be able to prepare for the actual event itself. I can't imagine not having that day. I really cannot imagine what the first day would have been like without that event.
Working under such intense pressure meant resources were stretched for many businesses and agencies. Therefore, each entity and individual had to take responsibility for their role. As it turns out, Bermuda has abilities and capacity that we underestimated ourselves.
When I was in the JAC, I had to have full trust in the people that was out there on an operational level. So one, it increases your confidence in your staff that you're working with. And it also increases their faith in you, because you have to basically let them get on with it. We've really learned from this event is that the police don't need to do a lot of things that they have been doing traditionally. For example, security Before you would have had a ton of police officers there managing and securing an event. But really, you have people that are really accredited and trained to do that. You know, transportation, normally you have the police and we're moving traffic back and forth, but we had our own transportation committee who dealt with that, and they've done a really good job at it. And all that did is prove to us, and obviously to the community, that the police can now get on with doing our core functions.
I think it taught us as a country too that we can come together. And in the end, I felt that we all started to come together. You know, as much as the 2 years was tumultuous, at the end, everybody started to realize that, hey, yeah, this is Bermuda, and you're here, so we're all on show. It reflects on all of us.
Nobody wanted to see the project fail or be hindered in any way, and therefore everybody did whatever they needed to do to be able to deliver the project successfully.
We didn't max out our potential with the America's Cup. It really shows that we have a lot of what we need right here. The idea is not too great. We can pull it off.
And looking ahead, Bermuda has built new working templates that can and are being applied in new ways already.
If we do have another event, I think we have the model of what we need to do to make sure that all businesses, no matter, you know, how big you are, how small you are, because some of the vendors are really small, like, you know, they have one product in some cases. So those were given an opportunity to succeed, just like the big stores that have a big storefront were given an opportunity to proceed. So I think it was successful, and hopefully it set up a good model for what we can do later on.
Did I feel that the event was a leaders event for, you know, for guys with big boats? Yes, but that doesn't mean that everybody didn't have somewhere that they could have got in, and to me, we proved that.
As long as you're open and willing to learn, you always can enhance yourself. And once you enhance myself, I'm enhancing the Bermuda Police Service, because that's where I work.
My big hope is that what Bermuda has accomplished is not forgotten. It just doesn't fade away, that all of the milestones, all of the achievements that we collectively accomplished are remembered, because there is something to be gained, there is something to be learned, and something to be used for the future.
Winning the bid and successfully hosting the 35th America's Cup demonstrates Bermuda's unique capacity for enterprise and innovation. Through new and effective forms of collaboration, and with the wide range of skills that Bermuda already possesses, we can reimagine what's possible and look confidently and collectively towards the future.
If I had to do it all over again, I would say yes. I would say yes 10 times over.
It all came from collaboration. We were all in the same room. When the challenge came up, we got together, we talked, we found the best solution, made it practical, made it work.
And I feel that I've grown. It feels like 2 years university for me, really.
Hopefully a bunch of young people out there that sort of now say, wow, you know, we can do things that we previously might have thought that we couldn't do.
I think the community now realizes that we can do something of this magnitude. So almost like, what's next? Like, that's people are bumping into me now on the street saying, okay, that's done, so what's next?
We have a resume now, the country, that shows that we can do this. This shouldn't be any type of surprise to the world or to our own people that we win these things. We should expect to win them.
I think that sense of pride, rekindling that sense of pride and that sense of we can do this, we can aspirationally set lofty goals and deliver as a community, I do think that's part of the legacy.
As a Bermudian, yes, I'm proud because we hosted it. We hosted it well.
If we do it right, there's very little this country can't do. We got a reputation, as we keep saying, of punching above our weight. Well, did we ever? But the lesson is we can.